Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app on the planet, and maybe on several other planets we haven't checked yet. I'm Micah Craddy. I'm the head of writing at Arc Studio and a WJ screenwriter, and I'm hosting Let's Write Scripts. I want to welcome all of you here today, and if you're watching the replay because you couldn't make it live, but you wanted to get some writing done, welcome to you as well. This is Let's Write Scripts. Today we're going to be doing 3 writing sprints where you can work on your script, and we'll be chatting in between the sprints about screenwriting, and I'll be answering your screenwriting questions. So we're going to be writing, we're going to be talking about screenwriting. I'm also going to show a photo of a sandwich later just because I love sandwiches. It's going to be a great time. Before we get into it, I want to know, where are you in the world? What are you writing today? And then we have this little writer question thing we like to do every week just to get the brain going. Maybe you've been thinking about other things, or your schoolwork or your job or your life, and you're just like not really in writing mode. This question kind of helps us get a little more on there. Although this one's a little more pop culture than writing, to be honest. So where are you? What are you writing today? And then I want to know, what recent movies or shows have you liked? And bonus, since this is a screenwriting show, are there any lessons that you can learn from them as a screenwriter? So where are you in the world? I love seeing people from all over the world joining us. What are you writing today? And what recent movies or shows have you liked? And are there any lessons you can learn from them as a screenwriter? I realize that's like the hard one, because oftentimes when we're watching movies or shows, we're not like necessarily always using our writer brain. We're just kind of enjoying them. But sometimes something will stick with you, or they hit you, be like, oh, that's really interesting. Or I love how they did that. Or, ooh, I wonder if I can do something like that in my script. So if anything like that has hit you recently, get in the chat and let me know. And if you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, turn notifications on so you can get more from us. I'm starting to make more content. Just posted a video on Monday, how to write a story for a movie. This next Monday, I'm posting another video about the midpoint of Parasite and like what lessons you can learn from it. And we're also doing like shorts, kind of like little screenwriting tips and stuff. So like we're doing a lot of stuff. So yeah, like, subscribe, turn notifications, all that good stuff on. And of course, yeah, I mentioned the sandwich of the week. Every week I show the best looking sandwich I've made because I love it, because we're pro sandwich here. And we'll do that during the second break. So to answer these 3 questions myself, I am in Los Angeles. It's hot. We're in a little mini heat wave. Trying to keep cool today, but if I'm sweating on this show, apologies. I got my windows open and my neighbors are doing construction. So we might have a fun little screechy, squealing sound effects going on, which is great. But for the writing time, I'll be muted, so that won't affect your writing. I'm doing revisions on a feature, and I'm just like, like when you're accelerating sometimes, like you're starting in and you're like, all right, this is okay. But then it just like really starts going. Like I'm in that point of this feature and I'm very excited about it. And I was like rereading a big section of it earlier, and like, I wasn't bored. I was like excited. So I'm feeling good about it. And some shows that I've liked, or let's see, I just saw Friendship recently, which is really great. And a show I've talked about is The Pit. But with Friendship, it's interesting because it's like very absurd. If you're into like I Think You Should Leave, Detroiters, that like Tim Robinson style comedy, it's like over the top and absurd. But I thought that this did a really good job of like pushing absurdity as far as you can go while still like maintaining humanity. And it kind of shows that like, even if the characters are, if it still makes sense for them, if it sort of makes emotional sense, you can get away with a lot. So I really like how they balance that. And then The Pit, I've talked about it before. It's just like the pacing is so fun. It just keeps moving. And the way they like set things up and pay them off and weave multiple storylines. I don't know. I've been digging it. But I'm loving seeing everyone in the Karifa creator. Hello, Juno, Sandra, Deborah, Cash in Arkansas working on the script, Jack in LA, Eleanor from Philadelphia, Karifa from Georgia, not the country. Thank you for clarifying. I would love, wait, have we had anyone from Georgia, the country? I'm not sure. Possibly, but glad you're here. Jeff from NYC. Jack's working on a horror feature. James is working on his comic book. Enjoyed Deep Cover. I haven't seen Deep Cover. Use improv to find character. Oh, that's the British one, right? Where it's the improv comics or like work doing undercover work. It looked fun. I like that. Let's see here. Eleanor like The Chosen. I don't know. Man, there's so many shows out these days. Cash the Neighborhood. That's fun. Comedy timing. Yeah, you know what? One of my like things is I really like classic style sitcoms. Like feel like they don't get a lot of respect and love, but there's a rhythm to it. Like you mentioned the comedy timing, there's just like a rhythm to it that is so satisfying, that I really love. Yeah, that's awesome. Reading. Ooh, Teji, what have you been, wait, where are we? Sorry, this is like slow here. My computer's slow. Anyways, the comment's not sorry yet. Sorry, Teji. You've been reading books? There you go. What have you been reading there? Let me know. Adults and overcompensating. I've seen the trailers for those, Jack, but I haven't watched them. But they looked fun. I think it was at the adults. I saw a clip of like this dinner scene where when someone cooks a raw chicken. That looked really funny, actually. Rosie from the UK, welcome. Rosie in the UK and Rosie in Cabo, different Rosies, different sides of the world, doing some video projects. Loved Landman. Oh, that's fun. I've seen a little bit of Landman, the Taylor Sheridan style. It's like fun. I find this stuff enjoy. I don't like necessarily love it, but I think like it does what it's doing well. You know, like it's not trying to break the wheel or doing anything that intense, but like also Billy Bob Thornton's fun. Henry from California, working on some concepts. Fantastic. Ooh, Wild Robot. I want to see that. Love how much dark humor they put in, still keeping it fun's movie. It's been on my list. I feel like animation, there's a lot of cool stuff happening, and I just don't end up watching that much of it. But it sounds cool. Paula in North Virginia, Department Q on Netflix. Oh, that's like the cold case show. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either. Man, this is like, there's too many shows out right now. Neffy from watching K-drama. When Life Hands You Tangerines made me want to look up the author. Wait, is that the name of the K-drama? That entire thing, When Life Hands You Tangerines made me want to look up the author? That's an intense name. Nephew, so glad you're here. Charles, starting a second screenplay, which is I purposely made sure is very different from my first. That's interesting. It's kind of fun to like play in different genres like that. I can get that. Particularly early on where like you're trying to find what your voice is. Like when I first started writing scripts, I was writing more just like sitcom kind of things. And then I moved sort of toward drama and then dark comedy. And then it like kind of took me a while, I feel like, to like hone in on what my voice is. Diamond in LA, started rewatching Bates Motel, and I love how they build suspense. I want to add that to my script. That's awesome. I did a blog post about like tension and suspense, but that's something I want to talk more about. Maybe I'll do a video about that because it's so important. And it's not just for thrillers and things like Bates Motel, but like suspense and tension are so important, like just in drama and even comedy too. Like having that expectation, the audience sort of being on the edge of their seat, kind of asking questions, wondering and needing to know what next is so important in like creating momentum in your script. So that's awesome. Christian, welcome back from South Carolina. Hope you find the zone on your third draft. Juno in Massachusetts, where I got a TV series. Most recently, I was amazed by the rehearsal. Hard to summarize, but so much to learn about how far you can push the boundaries of what a comedy even is. Yeah, those experimental shows are like really fun at times because they like really do find the contours, the outer edges of like what something is, and like you sort of understand the form more by people sort of breaking it, which is interesting here. Krifa creator. It's a good question. You know what? We're going to save that for the break because that's a good something to like dive into a little bit here. Pam from New Mexico. Love past lives. Learn a simple story with depth from real lives can make a great story, and also snapshot in time. Yeah, like past lives is. I love those. You know, there's a lot of different ways. Maybe call that like a quiet story. You know, or a simple story with depth. Or it's just sort of like people living their lives and sort of like having to make decisions about them. Yeah, you know, it doesn't have to be like explosions and bullets and stuff for drama and for, you know, for I mean, even suspense in a way, like really, because it's like that's suspense, right? You're sort of wondering what this woman's going to do, you know, and that there is tension and there is suspense, even though it is a very quiet movies. Yeah, fantastic. All right. Jeff asked about micro dramas. Yeah, I'll talk about those a little later. That's too. Neffy, Shawshank, old fave. Love how the main character covers all the details of the escape and success. Yeah, I mean, that's just like a classic. I like 90s. Like, I love that kind of era of movie. Another thing we rewatched My Cousin Vinny on Friday night. And it's like one of my favorite movies. It's just like, it's so well done. It's so funny. If you guys haven't seen My Cousin Vinny, like, it's such a It's such a great movie. And like every scene just sizzles, like it's just pop. It's nothing like it doesn't take a break. And all the characters are so fantastic. I loved it. Yeah. Jeff, I love the character dynamics in A Real Pain. A Real Pain I like. That's another one that was like kind of a quiet story. I really liked A Real Pain. It felt kind of like a first director movie in a way, you know, like he was still, Jesse Eisenberg was like feeling himself out kind of what he was doing. And in a way it felt a little smaller than I thought it was, but the characters and like the relationship between the cousins, and it was just like fantastic. There were really great moments in that movie. Yes, two youths in My Cousin Vinny. Apparently the most accurate legal movie. Really, I didn't know that. I love it. All right, I'm loving the energy here. We've got some good questions that were in there that we can get to later from Jeff Cash and Karifa, and maybe there'll be more questions. But I think we should jump into the first writing sprint. All right, so if you're new here and you're like, how does this work? What we do is I put up a timer on screen, play some music. I'm muted. I go off to the side. I become very small. And during the timed writing sprints, you just work on whatever you came here for. They're unprompted because we're all sort of working on different things in different stages of the project. So it's like whatever it is, maybe it's a script. Some people are writing a book. Some people are doing video projects or doing work, whatever it is, and just kind of want a creative community supporting them. Yeah. So for 15 minutes, you just work on it. And the 15-minute sprint is the first one. It's kind of a warm-up sprint. Like it's low pressure. Oftentimes you're reading over kind of your work or doing some free writing or just kind of trying to get into that creative zone. And then we're going to do 2 more longer sprints after that, which are kind of the meat and potatoes, the like really get work done sprints. So it should be a pretty great show. Sorry, I just saw Karifa's thing about Dragonheart, which is a movie that I haven't seen in so long, but like it's just like coming back to me. That's fun. I'm glad you like Dragonheart. Not like necessarily the most renowned movie, but like if I remember it correctly, it was a lot of fun. All right, but let's do some writing. That's what we need to do here. I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock, play some music, and we're just going to get into it. Again, I mentioned this is a warm-up sprint, low bar. Just like feel your way into your script or your writing project. Kind of figure out where characters are at. What's the tone that you're trying to get at? What's the question maybe that you're trying to get at? I'm just going to use this as a warm-up sprint. And then we'll take a little break and chat, and then we'll do some more writing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a perfect Wednesday afternoon. So 15 minutes on the clock. Let's do it. the end of the 15-minute writing sprint, the chill warm-up writing sprint, as I try to be very calm and not jarring as we come back together. And apologies again if you can hear the power tools in the background. That is not very calm, and it is very jarring. Maybe just for me. I don't know if this microphone, it usually does a pretty good job of blocking this stuff out. But anyways, welcome to everyone who joined us during that writing sprint. That was the first writing sprint. We're going to do 2 more. This is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. And you can check it out if you want. There should be a link in the description below if I remember to put it there. And if I didn't, you could just Google Arc Studio screenwriting. Yes, let me know, how did that sprint go for everyone? It was the warm-up sprint, pretty chill. Are the muses with you? Did you find it easy to get into the creative zone? Are you struggling with anything in particular? Any questions about maybe something you're dealing with specifically right now, or just screenwriting in general? Get in the chat and let me know, and we can talk about it. Oh, good. I'm glad you don't hear the power tools. That makes me happy. Okay, so some questions from earlier that I want to get into. Karifa, I'm stuck writing the outline of my script. Should I make the plot great first and the outline before I start the first draft of the script? So there is no one answer to this because there's so many different writing styles. There's this vague term that I only really became aware of in the last year or two of plotters versus pantsers, which came from NaNoWriMo, I think, National Novel Writing Month. And it's basically like there are some people who are very planners, right? They're planners. They do a lot of outlining. They outline very methodically and thoroughly before they write anything. And then there are some people who are pantsers, which means they kind of write by the seat of their pants. And it also could mean they're pulling down other people's pants. I don't know. I don't know. But they're writing by the seat of their pants, and they are not really outlining. They're finding the story as they go. Personally, I think those two extremes are more categorical, or like than they are like their terms. I think everyone, basically what I'm trying to say, is actually a hybrid of those. You're just somewhere, it's a spectrum. Those are poles on a spectrum, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm kind of a hybrid of the two. I'm kind of right in the middle. Like, I'll do some outlining. Additionally, I want to know the shape of my story. I want to know kind of, what I'm building toward, maybe what my midpoint is, like what it's about, kind of like what's going to kick it off. Like I want to know the big shapes, but then as I'm writing it, it becomes more the nuances, the intricacies, the nooks and crannies, all of that kind of the piece becomes clearer, because I'm also figuring out what it is in early drafts. Like, there are some people I feel like who can just kind of like outline it and they have it there and it's fully formed in their mind. And if you're that kind of person and that works for you, then great. But me, I'm the kind of person who, like, I figure it out in the writing, and so the story is changing, the characters are changing, I'm finding sides of them, like I'm realizing things, that I hadn't thought of before. And so it is very much like a give and take. So I would encourage you and everyone else to experiment with different styles and kind of like figure out what works for you. But it is generally, I would say, if my one piece of like takeaway advice is that it is good to have a general shape of your story, I think, at least before you write. But you don't have to be overly detailed unless that's just kind of how you are. And that's fine. Jeff asked, my producing partner told me about micro dramas. Are you familiar with these? What is the script format for it? Is this a burgeoning form of content? So I think you're talking about like the vertical dramas, which basically it's like all the episodes are like 1 to 2 minutes and there's like 60 of them back to back. Yes, I am a little familiar with this. I haven't written them myself though, but I've seen them around. I've watched some of them. And basically they're sort of strange to watch if you come from a traditional screenwriting background, or if you're really into movies, because basically every episode is like 90 seconds ish and it ends with a cliffhanger. And so it feels very unnatural if you're not used to that kind of thing. And it's also like they're sort of also designed to be standalone. So they have to kind of recap everything and move the story forward and do a cliffhanger. Oh, there's lots of exposition, lots of kind of like sitcom-esque, or not sitcom, sorry, soap opera-esque plotting and like story moves and reveals and like things happening. It's sort of like a soap opera, like condensed into 90-second chunks on steroids, I think, is basically. But it's not a bad idea if you're interested in screenwriting to become familiar with that style, because it is actually a growing form of content. They're really big in, I think there's like China, and they're kind of starting in the US, and you can find them online. I don't know, does anyone here watch those? If you do, let me know. But I'd be curious if anyone's watched those and what they think about them. Cash asks, what are your thoughts and recommendations on joining a cinema society? Cash, I'm not really sure what a cinema society is, but I like people and I like cinema, so it sounds cool. If this is some sort of film group or something like that, I don't know. I'm not really sure what this is. Is this like through a local cinema? Like, is it oftentimes a town will have like a theater that shows like classic movies and stuff? Is it like that kind of a cinema society? Is this, I'm not sure what you mean. I will generally say that being around other people who are creative, who love cinema, who are writing, who are trying to make things, that is, I recommend that. I think it's great to surround yourself. I mean, in a little way, that's kind of what we are doing here in Let's Write Scripts, but like, this is virtual and it's once a week. And so it's like if you can have more of that and you like the people and you like it, then that sounds like it could be awesome. Yeah. All right, let's see here. With Arabic, writing my script and translate to English later, is this going to work for some English competitions? It depends on the quality of the translation. If you're doing like an automatic translation error and it's kind of awkward and the phrasing doesn't quite work, then I think it would be difficult for those to place, just because it's not written in that language and it's not a great translation. So I would say, yeah, it depends on the quality of the translation here. Krifa, how many of your story ideas get as far as the script stage? That's a great question. I want to know everyone's answer to this. Please get in the chat and let me know how many of your ideas get as far as the script stage. I mean, it is very much like an iceberg, right? Where like most of the stuff is below the surface, because I have a lot. It depends. It's hard. It's actually hard to answer this question because it's like, what constitutes an idea? Like, there are times like I just have a thought and I have millions of those. So I'm like, oh, that could be a thing, but so in that, then it's like 1% or something. I don't know, like a very small percent. If it's more like things I've written down, at least I've written down it in my notes app or something, and I've worked on it, it's still very small probably, but it's probably up to like, I'll have 10 to 20 ideas for every one that actually gets to the script stage. But it's like, it's interesting. It's hard to say because sometimes it's just like a thought and it never goes farther than that. Sometimes it's writing down a single sentence in a note and it never goes farther than that. Sometimes that sentence turns into a paragraph and it never goes further than that. Sometimes that sentence turns into a page or two and it never goes further than that. Sometimes it becomes like 5 pages and it still never goes further than that. But usually if I get to like I'm actually have pages on pages, at that point it's higher. It's 25, 50% maybe get to the script stage. But that's a really interesting question. I like that. James says, I like to try to list my ideas and see how I can make them into log lines. That's fun. Yeah. And then if I have a scene in mind, I'll try and dramatize it when I have and see if it goes after that. Yeah, that's a good way, I think, of working on that. Henry, I have a lot of ideas, but on a small percentage, it makes it the final project. Yeah, I think a lot of people, like a lot of us are there. Cash, my ideas go to about 2 pages of script before being discarded. I'm only stuck with one idea off and off for 3 years, and it's like off, but I hope you get back to it. I hope you do too. I generally, if I'm actually in the script phase, I'm in Arc Studio, I'm screenwriting, if I've reached that stage, I usually finish it because there's a lot of work that happens before I actually start writing it, like, interior, etc. So by the time I get there, it's actually pretty well done. When would you say a short film is too long? When it feels too long. The length of a short film isn't determined by like some outside number. It's determined by the story that you're trying to tell, right? Like there are short films that should be 3 minutes. That should be 5 minutes. There should be 6 minutes. There are short films that are half an hour, So if you're making a short story, I mean, this is something I've been thinking about a little bit. I'm going to make a video on writing scripts because I've done some short films and they're really fun. I've directed and edited them, and it's really fun to learn from the whole process. you can spend as much time and money on short films as you want. Like really, like you could spend $10 and your iPhone to make a short film, or you can spend $20,000-$30,000 on them. Like it's as much as you want. But I would say, yeah, the story itself tells you how long it needs to be, and shorter is always better. Leave them wanting more. Leave them wanting more, I think. Brian, hello to you. What are your thoughts on using AI to get inspiration aid on a scene? I don't use it in my writing. I know some do, and some people use it for like research or brainstorming. Personally, I'm just not very interested in its input on a scene. I also think of screenwriting as a muscle, and it's a muscle you want to get stronger, not a muscle. Like if you're an athlete training, like if you're a runner, you go up to altitude to run because it's harder. You run with weights on, you do drills, you work harder so that's easier later. And so my thing with AI tools is like, maybe it can give you an idea, maybe it'll give you 10 ideas, and maybe one of those ideas could be okay. But personally, I want the muscle in my brain that comes up with those ideas to be as strong as possible. And the moment there's something that can do my thinking for me, or that can like take the work away, like, I don't know, I think humans are inherently lazy. And so I try to kind of avoid that because I want to have to keep those muscles strong. Yeah, that's what I think. Cash's budget for short film was $10 in Android. I mean, that was the first short I ever did. It was about I wrote this short film, which you can probably find online if you look very hard. It's on YouTube somewhere. And it was just me. I had two buddies who were actors. One of my friends was like a tech guy. He's more of a film editor, but he had a camera. And I like borrowed some equipment. And the basic premise was that like, it's an actor who's kind of an idiot, just like a dude. It's just like a bro who's very dumb. And he gets cast in like a Fincher script in the studio. He's an actor, and the studio sends a nutritionist over to like set him up on a meal plan to get him in shape for the movie. And it turned out the nutritionist also like auditioned for the part, but didn't get it. But he's like a very serious actor and just like very upset that this guy who doesn't even care about acting or know who David Fincher is got the part. And it sort of like escalates from there. And like the nutritionist brings a salad. And so I went to the store to a salad bar and bought the salad. And that was my budget for the short film. And then like I directed it and did sound, and I think I was borrowing someone's equipment. And so I was like holding a boom and directing, and I couldn't see the camera or anything. And like, and it was fun. I mean, it's like, there's some things in it. It's a very early, like, it's cheap, you can tell. But like, I go back and rewatch it sometimes, and there's like, it makes me laugh a little bit. Like it's, I don't know, there can be stuff in there. So you can like make fun stuff for like, I mean, you look at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They filmed a little pilot on their own. I think it's online somewhere. You can find it. And like, it was just like with a camcorder and in an apartment. And like, yeah, I mean, like great ideas don't necessarily need a budget. Yeah. All right. One more question. And then we are going, nutrition, I think. Yeah, I believe. Andy's question. Hi, just a quick one. After you write a script, where do you go for feedback? Family and friends don't give you the most honest and brutal feedback that you might need. Andy, this is a question you'll imagine that gets asked a lot. And it really depends on you and kind of where you are in life. And I mean that sort of in multiple ways, like, where are you geographically? Who are you surrounded with? Like Cash was asking earlier about like joining a cinema society. It's like, do you have people around you who are writers? And for me, like I moved to LA right after college, after a brief stint as a journalist, and realized I don't like journalism. And I got a job as a PA, and I just like met people who were also trying to do what I was doing. And you meet people. And so I could read their stuff and they could read my stuff. I got jobs as a PAs on shows, and eventually like writers read my stuff, and, and like you build a community. That's very difficult to do. That also takes years. The shortcuts are You can take a class. That's an option. And you can pay for stuff. But you can also like find the other option I would say is a writer's group. And that's mainly what I did, because I didn't go to film school. Actually, I was in writer's groups for years. And you find people who are good writers, who give good notes, and it's you don't pay for it. You pay in kind. They give you notes on your stuff. You give them notes on their stuff. And you establish at the beginning what kind of group this is. Are we taking this seriously? Are we meeting regularly? Are we going to be honest with each other? Like, because sometimes like you can get in a group with people and you can give them notes and you can quickly find out they don't want notes. They just want you to tell them how great they are. And that just doesn't help anyone. Yeah. Classes, writers groups, paying for coverage and notes, that kind of stuff is great. Yeah. All right. These are great questions. I could keep chatting, but we're here to write. So I think we are going to, Cash has found my short film. What do you think, Cash? Give me your review. And you could be brutal. Again, I made it for like $10 years ago. But yeah, there some of the shots are good, but like I think it's a fun story anyways. Okay, let's move into the next writing sprint. So now we did a 15-minute writing sprint to start, and we're going to kick up to a 25-minute writing sprint, kind of like what is this, Pomodoro? They do like the 25. And again, unprompted. Hopefully, whatever you got warmed up in that first writing sprint, I really got into the zone. It was great for me. I figured out some stuff and kind of read through in the warm-up sprint, made a few tweaks, but like I think in this next sprint, I'm primed to actually write some fresh scenes, some ideas that I have just sort of bullet points for now. So I'm going to put 25 minutes on the clock, play some more music, and we're going to get into it. And then we're going to check back in 25 minutes. I'll show you the sandwich of the week and answer more questions. It's going to be great. All right. 25 minutes on the clock. Let's get into it. Sorry, y'all. I was writing. Got stuck in the old writing zone, the old creative writing zone. Welcome for those who joined during that sprint, or I didn't greet because they joined during the first sprint. This is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio. I'm Micah Craddy, a WGA screenwriter. I'm the head of writing at Arc Studio, and this is a show dedicated to screenwriting, where we do all screenwriting. We're all working on our projects. We're talking about screenwriting. It's awesome. That was our second sprint. Usually my best sprint, because the first sprint's the warm-up, and the third sprint I'm tired, and in the second sprint it's great. So I want to know, though, how did that sprint go for you? If this first sprint was going well, did you keep it up in the second sprint? If the first sprint was tough, did things turn around and get better? What are you dealing with in your writing? Any particular problems, any issues about screenwriting in general, or something specific to this script? Let me know. Welcome Aaron, who joined late in New York, though, working on a rewrite. Ooh, good luck, man. Current Living Murderbot, The Studio, and Resident Alien. I love The Studio, so the question of the day, if you joined late, was what are you watching, and what kind of like lessons can you pull from that? And don't be afraid to write extremes, is what Aaron's saying here. Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I was talking about friendship, which I had seen, but also goes to extremes sometimes in the absurdity of the comedy. And I think the trick is to push yourself to the extremes without sacrificing like the characters and the emotional core of the script. And if you can do that, then that's something really special. So glad you're here, Aaron. Karifa had a question. How much time per day should young aspiring writers 18 to 25 devote to writing? That's a very good question. And I think it's a question that's very much dependent on your life circumstances. Are you a full-time student? Are you working full-time? Are you working full-time and a full-time student? How much time do you have to devote to this? A little bit every day is fantastic. If you can write an hour a day, that's fantastic. If you can write a few hours a week, okay. It's what can you do? And it's also what are your goals for it? If it's something you're this is the thing I'm going to dedicate to, I want to make a career, then yeah, you need to give more of your time to it. If it's, I love this, it's fun, it's a hobby, then do it like you would with a hobby, So how much time do you have, and what are you trying to get out of it? I think will lead you to an answer that is right for you. And you said, I'm new to writing scripts. I've written one short film. Should I doing more short scripts before trying to write a feature film? I think you should write whatever you're excited to write. I don't like telling people what they should write, right? That's a very personal decision that a writer needs to choose. You can write more short film scripts. It's also if you're going to make them, short film scripts are great. I would say though, if you want, take a feature, tackle it, go for it, because you're going to learn so much through that process. But think of it, and this goes for all writers, try to focus on the process in the long term, because if you write your first feature is probably going to have some good stuff, some really bad stuff, and a lot of mediocre stuff. And the exact percentages of that can vary of those three categories. But that's okay. Oftentimes I think it's hard because screenwriters have this dream of writing a movie, and then they write one and then it's not perfect. And then they're just depressed and they never write anything else again. It's a new thing and it's very difficult. You should expect it to be hard. You should expect your first one to be uneven at best. If it's not, if you write a masterpiece, hey, that's awesome. But most likely it's going to be a little uneven. So yeah, write what you want, but don't be afraid to tackle something big, and but don't expect it to be perfect too. And it's okay. You can learn and grow as a writer. That's one of the best things about writing, is that I'm been doing this for a long time, and I'm a better writer now than I was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, certainly 10 years ago. So yeah, just go for it. This is a depressing question. Do you think you can still pursue a screenwriting career nowadays? Sometimes it's the industry is in decay. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie and say that it's going, things are tough right now. And it's partly the industry is in transition, and there's just global economic forces and smaller things. And I mean, there's a lot going on. It's certainly not for like the faint-hearted, and I can't promise you any success, but like, I don't know, you should do what you want, right? That's my feeling. And do it like if you're really like, that's what you're passionate, like that's what kind of what you feel like you have to do. There's no guarantees of success, and like there's more of a guarantee of failure, or the percentages, I feel like the most people that like who do it are successful, it's not like they're not being strategic. They just, that's like, this is what you do, and they sort of have to. But like a lot of people write, and even people who have shows you'll see or have sold a movie later in life, like they have full-time jobs, so screenwriting's difficult because it's kind of a place where art meets commerce, so there are people who love to paint, and they just love to paint or into pottery or write poetry or a lot of different things, and they don't expect to make money off of it. Like, I mean, sure, they love to, but like, they sort of think like, yeah, that's something they do. Screenwriting's hard because it's kind of a career also, and it's commercialized, and you can make good money on it. But it's also that artistic side. So, all these things are like questions and decisions people have to make for themselves. But yeah, it's a personal decision. It's like, what is your passion? But also, yeah, going to it with both eyes open and know that like there's a difference also between like artistic fulfillment and financial success. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like sometimes the people who go for it don't really even, like for me, in some ways, it didn't really feel like I was making a choice. It was just like, you're going to do this because that's what you're going to do. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Yeah. All right. One more question. How do you decide which audience to direct your story towards, like cartoon for kids or R-rated thriller or maybe novel? It all depends on what the story is. Like the story has an audience that it's right for. Like a cartoon for kids and an R-rated thriller are very different things. So the material, this is what, the story determines like the audience. If it's a story that's an R-rated thriller, then that's what it is. But again, these are all things you choose it. Like you choose. There's no one else to like choose where you're going to aim your story towards. Like this is what we do, is like, it's up to us. All these things are up to us. Which is scary, but it's also like amazing because you could write anything you want. You can write anything you want, Yeah, so that's what I have to say. All right, let's do the sandwich of the week now. Switch things up a little bit. Every week, if you're new, I just show the best looking sandwich that I made that week because I love sandwiches. I love making them, and more than that, I love eating them. So I just want to guarantee you that all the sandwiches featured on Sandwich of the Week, none of them are staged. None of them are just like props that I threw away. I eat them all. And this is this week's sandwich. And this week's sandwich is entitled Friendship. Kind of inspired by the movie Friendship, which I saw recently. But I took this photo, and doesn't this kind of just like two buds like taking a photo next to each other? Like there's the taller one, and then the one next to it just kind of like angled to the right. And they're just like posing. And this is a beautiful ciabatta turkey sandwich with avocado, pickled onions, greens, mayo. Got that good yellow mustard just going up into the ciabatta. Yeah, ciabatta for this one. The bread is so good. Like the bread is so important. So I have to. It was really good. Thank you. Yeah. So let this sandwich inspire you, perhaps, as we move into our final writing sprint. Maybe you have some friendship themes in your script, or community, or some sort of togetherness, or something like that. I don't know. But it's pretty great. No, I don't make the bread. I make the sandwiches. Although, who was it? Was it Pam? Did you send me this stuff about baking sourdough? I kind of want to. I did a little bread baking like during lockdown, like early pandemic when a lot of people were baking bread. But like I tried to do a whole wheat thing that was entirely whole wheat flour. And yes, Pamela sent me the bread. Awesome. Thank you. I want to get into it. Like when I tried before, I just tried to do a recipe that was like so simple and it was only whole wheat flour, and so it didn't fully like rise, and the middle was kind of underbaked. Sorry, just saying the word underbaked like takes me back to when I was watching Great British Bake Off a lot back in the day. But I might get into doing some more bread. Although like making a ciabatta like this, I don't even know like if that's possible if you're not like a real baker. That's why I saved it till the end, till right before the last sprint. I used to show this, I think the first time I showed this in the beginning, and then people were just like hungry, and I'm like, all right, well, this is gonna be hard to write. But we only have one little sprint left, and we're already late, so we're gonna do a short sprint here. I want to do an announcement though. Sorry, before we move forward, because we have a special guest next week here on Let's Write Scripts. James Hurst is going to be joining. He is award-winning screenwriter and showrunner in Canada, and he's worked on shows like Hardy Boys, Winona Earp, Degrassi, The Next Generation, a ton of stuff if you check out his IMDb. And he is going to be a guest next week on Let's Write Scripts. So he's going to be doing writing sprints with us, and he'll be answering questions with me. And it is going to be really fun. And it's always great to have a guest on here to bounce off of and chat with and get their experience. Because like I can answer questions, but I can really only give my POV. And like there are different answers to things. Like I don't have all of the answers, and people would disagree with some of them, and that's fine, because like these aren't necessarily like there isn't necessarily one right answer to some of these questions. It's like it's opinion. So I love getting more people's opinions on here. Do you think you try to be a sandwich maker? Sometimes it just seems like really competitive. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of money in sandwiches, but there's joy. See, I like to keep my sandwiches pure. Like writing, that can be commercialized, but my sandwiches is pure. It's just between my sandwich and my stomach. And I don't want to add money to that relationship. It just complicates things. All right. Okay. We're going to get into the last writing sprint now, because we've done a lot of chatting and it's been fantastic. And next week is going to be great with that guest. So make sure to join and invite friends. By the way, if you have other writer friends, tell them about this. We love having more new people here. All right. 15 minutes on the clock because we're running a little late. So we're going to do a shorter sprint at the end. Thank you all for coming. If you have to leave during the sprint, no worries. I'm glad you were here. Let me say farewell in the chat. Let me know how it went if you have to leave. And if not, stick around to the end and we'll do final farewells. And I hope to see you all next week as well. So I'm going to play some music, put 15 minutes on the clock, and let's just try to finish strong. I know maybe our brains are a little tired, but you've set this time out in your schedule. You've marked it out. You've dedicated it to your screenwriting. So 15 minutes on the clock, play some more music, and I'll catch you all on the other side. Let's do it. I'm muted. Anyways, as I said, this brings us to the end of Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, June 18th. Thank you all so much for joining today. I hope you got some great writing done, like Henry, who got his ideas down on paper. And I love seeing you guys take advantage of this time and have a good writing experience. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to do. Again, we have that special guest next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, James Hurst, screenwriter, showrunner, who has done shows like Hardy Boys, Winona Earp, Degrassi, The Next Generation, and a lot of other stuff. And yeah, we'll be writing, we'll be chatting, we'll be answering your screenwriting questions, and it is going to be a great time. So I hope to see you then. Until then, though, please keep writing, be kind to yourselves, and yeah, have a great week. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.